Welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 620, being recorded on March 17, 2021. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sproonberg. I decided to grow my beard back in this morning. How am I doing?
Hey.
Just started today.
Just started today?
This morning. I just said, what, I'm going to grow this. I'm going to grow this baby out.
Check it next week.
All right.
This is 3 days of growth. 4, maybe?
Hold on, let's see. That's 4 days of growth?
That is baby smooth.
I'm almost 50 years old and I can't grow facial hair.
I can grow a little bit.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaving every morning is kind of a pain.
But I'm only 17.
Yeah, I just held my breath and just pushed it out this morning. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
It's disturbing. Hey, you
better than Alan, who you could watch it grow.
That's true.
It's true. You could hear it, actually.
He was a hairy man. You can subscribe to be alerted when we go live for events like this weekly podcast recording session by going to pcper.com/subscribe. And you can go to patreon.com/pcper to support PC Perspective and
Absolutely.
become a patron of the PC Perspective Black Arts. We don't have any news on that front, do we, Brett?
We don't, but that just means there's a space left for you. And you know who you are out there. Your name here.
Right. You could become internet famous. Pledge something to PC Per. Mm-hmm. We read out your name and whatever silly message you put in place of a name within certain limitations. But,
But
and that's more valuable than an upvote.
We're really wide with what we, will tolerate. So it's just fine.
We'll do almost anything for money, I think is what we're trying to say.
True.
Yeah. All right.
I was going to say, speaking of desperation, but no. Speaking of things that are the opposite of desperation, Josh Walrath in Laramie, Wyoming, every week enjoys a delightful special meal. Josh, please tell us more.
Light. Very light meals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, almost dieting in this case. Yeah, this was a big one. This was... I couldn't finish it. And that rarely happens. But it was just too much. It was. This one is called the Golden Harp. In remembrance or honor of St. Patrick's Day. 2 corned beef patties. 4-ounce piece, so half a pound of corned beef. Which is pretty damn salty. Hence, corned beef. But anyway, top that with onion rings. Well, let me get my picture out so I can remember exactly what it is. Golden Harp, you've heard that. Okay, 2 4-ounce corned beef patties. Guinness beer cheese. So that gravy-looking stuff is a melted, mixed cheese with Guinness. Onion rings, and topping it all off is a potato cake. Swear that thing was a pound. I had to take it out of the box. I put it on a plate, and I used a fork and a knife. And I could only get 3/4 of it down with maybe about 3/4 of the fries, if even that. And then I was just bursting, and I couldn't eat it anymore. And I don't think that I'm going to have salt for another 3 weeks now. But it was worth it.
Of you.
Yeah.
Good on you, man.
Yeah.
That looks
I noticed
heavy.
You titled this one A Little Messy.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's why I had to get the knife and fork out. Potato patta wasn't doing great wonders for keeping things together, and that cheese sauce was all over the place. So, yeah, tasty, super filling. Glad they offer it once a year.
So you brought a knife and fork to a burger fight.
Exactly. And I came out mostly victorious.
We interrupt this broadcast for a recent Patreon edition.
Uh-oh.
Hang on, I just got the notice. So, yep, I'm going to read this one.
Okay.
Actually, I have to be careful about how I read this one, and you'll know why after I say it. A popular voice assistant's name starting with A. Buy Josh a diaper for that burger. Yes, a diaper.
Yeah, that cheese looks bad, but tastes really good.
Top story this week, obviously. Here it is, the reference card in all of its glory. There's a plant back here. You know, it's the 6700 XT, guys. Get excited. It's the new smaller Navi. Millions of transistors.
Hey, look, yeah, it said 26.5 million transistors, so half the size of a GeForce 3. Pretty cool, huh?
But I mean,
talking GeForce 2 size.
We're talking, 7 nanometer. So obviously, smaller manufacturing process, fewer transistors, right?
Before you move on, have you noticed and given credit to the 45-degree devil-may-care angle? The rackishness of it, the pure, unadulterated fun of turning your die 45 degrees.
I think it's, from an artistic standpoint, I like it. It stands out.
Yeah, it does.
A happy accident.
They've made a quality move with that because a lot of people are going to notice.
Mm-hmm. Well, it minimizes trace route from the bumps to, underneath the chip to typically, what's on the bottom of the substrate.
Josh, no one wants to know the real
reason.
It's just artistic.
That's way too smart for me, but anyway, it's here. The performance numbers are out. Have any of you looked at any of the reviews that are out there for this? Because I could sum it up in a sentence. It's between a 3060 Ti and a 3070. There you go. End of review.
Always?
Yeah. Sometimes it's
most of the time.
Sometimes it's pretty close to a 3060 Ti, like within a frame per second or something.
Hey,
what's pretty cool about it, though?
What?
Is that essentially it is mostly the same specs as a 5700 XT, but with lower memory bandwidth. But it outperforms that significantly.
Do you think the insane GPU clocks have anything to do with that, Josh?
Yeah, it might have a small amount. I mean, there's obvious architecture things, but going up to 2.4, 2.5 gigahertz, that's
2.6.
Well, and observe, nice.
And a very, very close to die infinity cache, of course.
And
96 megs of that. Yeah,
96,
it's shrunk a little bit, but
right.
Still.
So because this is a new, smaller GPU, this is not a cut down version of the previous GPU. You have it's a narrower memory bus. You don't have as much of the infinity cache, but frame rate consistency was good. And I think there's a reason that they are targeting 1440p. You have less cache, you have less memory bandwidth, so target 1440 instead of 4K. There was a lot of marketing around 4K with the original 6800 and 6900 launch because you have 16 gigabytes of memory and they're much more powerful GPUs. Although really, if you start looking at some of the results, this is not a weak GPU, but it's getting closer to mid-range. It's as you mentioned, it's almost the same specs as a 5700 XT. It's still 40 CUs, same number of streaming processors. It's just,
it's got more memory.
Much more memory.
12 gigs versus 8.
But
mid-range is now
bandwidth, though. A lot
true,
less.
Mid-range, as you're saying, is now 20+% over 5700 XT spec. 30%, right? Yeah.
Now, if you look at
not bad.
Just a synthetic, here's times by extreme. The 6800 XT is just below a 3060 Ti in this particular test. That did not end up being indicative of actual gaming benchmarks like Metro Exodus, where it actually gets smaller when I zoom in. Isn't that nice? Here you have it a little bit above the 3060 Ti, but not much. We're talking like 82 to 84 frames per second. And then about 6 to 8 frames per second above that, you'll have the 3070. So it's it seemed to lag a little bit further behind the 3070 than I was expecting. And
oh yeah, I was going to mention that was AMD's big comparison. They were really placing it up against the 3070 in their pre-release. Hey, here's where we land.
yeah, and admittedly, a couple of these games right here, the first two play better on NVIDIA. If you go to the Division 2, that's a little bit more of an AMD-friendly game, and that's, I mean, there's still a 10 frame per second gap between the 3070 and the 6700 XT, but yeah, and it's almost dead even. This was actually the worst example for it in this. I was expecting Division 2, oh, it's a AMD game. No, it's tied with 3060 Ti. And Far Cry 5 was a different story. Far Cry 5 at 4K, Ultra HD textures enabled, all of a sudden, it's faster than our 3070. So it really depends on the games. If I'd run Dirt 5, if I'd been able to, because ever since a forced update that improved performance, which necessitated retesting all the graphics cards, FrameView doesn't work anymore. It crashes Dirt 5 every single time. And I was like starting the process of using OCAT instead, and I just gave up on it because I had to retest so many cards. So I'm guessing Far Cry 5 and Dirt 5 would be the best examples of this, where you could actually beat a 3070. But in some of the games, it's right there with a 3060 Ti. But, you know...
What's the MSRP of a 3070 again?
$499 in, you know, this imaginary
In
world.
theory.
Yeah. That was the thing. It's all academic. This is $479. I didn't really love that price because it's right in between NVIDIA's $400 and $500 cards. So you'd think, oh, it should be $449. Well, that is... there's no point. It's... well, the next one we'll talk about here in a moment. I'll just quickly go through. But total power draw, 6700 XT. It's drawing more power than a 5700 XT. At least in this particular setup. But I mean, it's within 6 watts. This could have just been, you know, inconsistencies in setup and, you know, the moon and the stars. Who knows?
6 watts is a bunch of lights.
Yeah, could have been. Could have been the difference between, I can't remember actually. Was I using case fans with the, who knows? But yeah, it's basically a wash. Pulls about the same amount of power as a 6700 or 5700 XT, but has significantly better performance. So it's a win. Except you probably can't buy one. You can go to AMD.com and buy this exact version of it. Their reference version will be available direct.
And that's tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Or is it next week?
I thought it was going on sale tomorrow.
Well, so I understood is that you've got a couple of seconds tomorrow.
And what you do is you go up there and you go onto the site and you keep hitting refresh until you get one, and then you post screenshots to Twitter and enjoy all the attention.
But only
See,
if
it wasn't
you're
so
an
hard, guys.
executive with the company.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
people will really appreciate. So anyway, here's the card you can't buy tomorrow. It's surprisingly light. This is... It looks like from the side, it looks like the 6800, but it is a smaller card. It's a lighter, smaller, cooler. 2 fans instead of 3. I did show the card a little bit more in the review. You can check it out at PCPro.com if you want to look at the reference card in great detail. But we had another review go up a little bit ago.
Before you move on, I just wanted to say that I liked everything about the design of the card except for the Team Rocket logo really on the side.
I kind of like
what they were? You like the
think
giant
it's-
R?
Oh, let's see.
I think it's too much. I mean, there's R's in the fans, and I don't know. I just think it's a little bit overdone. I like the design, except for the R is a little bit too bold for me.
I think it was Video Cards who pointed out on Twitter that the center between the 2 fans is essentially an X. So it is RX. And then the R's on the fans, those could be Radeon. And revolutionary. And think about it. Revolutions, fans spinning around.
You've
I like
put
the cut of
some
your jib
thought
on
into
it.
this, haven't you?
No, I just made all
You
that up.
did. Well, it was good.
So that's the reference card.
All right.
I didn't go too heavily into thermals, but that's because I did thermal testing with the next review, knowing that I had an aftermarket card to compare it to. But hey, what happens if you take that exact same GPU and you give it a little bit of a factory overclock and a much larger and more effective cooling solution. And you have what I call Nitro Cold Brew, which is the Sapphire Nitro Plus version of the card, which is, exactly the same as the RX 6800 Nitro Plus that I looked at as far as the cooler. It's the same, was it Tri-X cooling solution? Yes, which has all sorts of delightful features you can read about. Even has dedicated memory and VRM cooling, standalone memory VRM cooling module, which does not just cool the memory and MOSFETs, but also the chokes, guys. You have to remember to cool your chokes.
Of
As
course.
you can see, has this nice backplate. This is a lighted
Look at all
logo
those
right here.
keycaps.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? And a pass-through. I guess this is kind of the standard
Wonderful.
now. Everybody has that
Wonderful
pass-through.
Flow-through design.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Is that what, BIOS switch.
Oh, yeah, sure.
This one still using a stock 8 plus 6 pin connection. I've seen dual 8 pins with some aftermarket boards.
Sapphire makes their own layout. They do their own designs, right?
I assume so, yeah. I think this is a custom thing. But hey, it's custom.
Yeah, they could have
custom cooling.
done anything.
And of course, I talk about tricks. Software, if you have a Sapphire card, get their software because this has the easiest to configure resolution scaling thing. You just pick a resolution scale, it defaults to 85%. You activate your in-game resolutions, which are now like, that resolution scale based on whatever. So if a 4K display goes down to 3264 by 1836, it also gives you a handy toggle to turn on Radeon image sharpening. And then you just go into your game and select that resolution. That new resolution you just came up with will show up as one of your monitor resolutions. And it works great. And I cannot tell at 85% that I'm doing like resolution scale. It's not DLSS, but it's nice. Real quick, this is basically a frame per second faster than reference. So it's not too exciting. But in the Division 2 of all things, the game where it was tied with the 3060 Ti before at 119 frames per second, this Sapphire Nitro Plus takes that up to 125 frames per second and splits the difference between the 3060 Ti and the 3070. So 5 frames per second, almost 6 more in one benchmark. I thought I'd done something wrong until I remembered, hey, Division 2 is a game where the menu runs your GPU 100% all the time. So there is no cooldown between benchmark runs unless you totally kill the app. So this is one where I always completely saturate the GPU coolers. And this one was staying cool even through that, menu. It's one of the toughest tests. It's just a freaking menu. But anyway, total power draw on this card. The reference, remember, was it was about tied with the 5700 XT. We're talking 329 watts total system power draw with a 3900X and an 80 plus gold PSU. Then you have the Sapphire at 359. So that's 24 watts for an overclock card with a bigger cooler on it. But here's the really interesting thing. The load temps. Now, if you can follow this, yellow and orange, I tried to pick complementary colors. Yellow on the chart represents the reference GPU temp, and then orange is the hotspot, which is higher. And the reference card, and this is a short test. I was only doing one benchmark run of Metro Exodus. It was hitting 94 degrees hotspot. And the GPU itself was about 78. It would just continue to climb in longer workloads. Then the Nitro Plus, same exact conditions, same roughly 24C ambient air. It was only getting up to about 59C, and then the hotspot was, what do I have here? Hotspot was only 83. So significantly cooler with the same GPU. So just right there alone, you're going to get some higher sustained clock speeds. But there's a price attached, but again, meaningless. I said it's they're expecting pricing on this to be $579. That's $100 premium.
Seriously?
But it doesn't matter. I mean, AMD might as well be selling theirs for $579. When these actually hit the street,
True.
they're going to be $800-900.
Yeah,
what
like
is-
a 6900 XT is $1,500 to $2,400 depending on the day. That blows.
how much is the non
6800 XT I think was $1,199 and then $999 for a 6800 last time I saw it.
Yeah.
I mean it's just ludicrous.
So if this is just a couple
$400 premiums.
less, than
You're playing Canadian MSRP,
Yeah,
but in American dollars, unfortunately.
yeah. I don't even know what to say anymore. I feel like I feel anxiety about doing a GPU review anymore. Like there's trepidation in spades. Like this is going to be received with nothing but negativity. I'm super cynical myself. It's not a pleasant thing to like, here's another GPU you can't buy and the MSRP means nothing. And so you have to just throw the value argument out the window is what I said in the review. If you can find it for a price you're willing to pay, you'll like it because it runs really cool. It's very quiet. I need to come up with some kind of a passive CPU cooling system because the last time I tried to do a Nitro Plus GPU, I did the 6800. I think what I ended up doing was just turning off my liquid cooler so that I was running passive just long enough to get a GPU benchmark in without overheating the CPU. So I could do my SPL meter without having the CPU cooler drown out the GPU. That's how quiet these are. They're like 34, 35 decibels under load. So it's a very
Yeah,
quiet
it seems to me that if you really want a new graphics card, partner up with somebody who's willing to pitch in and just buy a system. And you give your buddy your old GPU and you upgrade to whatever one you get. Like a 3700 or 3070 or whatever on the AMD side. Because otherwise, the only time you're going to get anywhere close to MSRP is getting it pre-built from AMG, HP. I don't know if you can still get them from Dell anymore. I know HP had something like 27 SKUs with a higher end graphics card, and by the end of last week, there were 3 that were actually available. I mean, it's nuts. So yeah, that's going to be your best bet, or try to do the shuffle. And the shuffle today was absolute crap on Newegg. The prices were way high for getting a 3060. It was like $540 for the cheapest one, and it only goes up from there. $700 for a 3060 Ti. Yeah, no.
By the way, HP, and I have it pulled up here just to show people, because I mentioned this, I think, last week.
You were talking about it, yeah.
HP Omen, because Dell is out the window. The last couple of times I've gone to Dell, it's around $2,000 to $3,000 just to get a system with like a discrete graphics card of any value. Their cheapest 3070 pre-configured system was $3,200. HP, now these are not shipping immediately, but you can go and configure one of these systems. So here's one for $2,000. It has a 3090 in it. I mean, that's like $800 below the cheapest 3090 on eBay. Last time I looked, they were going for like $2,800.
I mean, I hate it, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, $800 and you get a 1650 Super, but hey, at least you're getting a discrete card. Dell, for $1,000, you're just getting Intel processor graphics.
Hey, at least they discontinued all the blower model 3090s, and that's probably, got a better cooler in it.
Yeah,
Unless
I've seen some pictures because I wanted to know what they had in these things, and apparently it's like a dual fan system. But hey, it's free shipping, $2,000. When does it actually ship, though? Because I think these are at least a month or two out.
Still might be worth it.
Let's see. Ships on 4/15/2021. So in about a month.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine the situation changing in only a month. So, if you really want one, maybe Josh has got the formula for that.
Yeah, like Josh said, get a friend. If do you want a CPU? Do you want this weird case it ships in? Like, hey, you can have that stuff in the power supply. I just want the graphics card.
I'll give you my old card. You give me the new one. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, he's going to help pay and just give him the old graphics card.
Here's the system.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and you saved me money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like not only saving the money, it's like you can have it at all. So that's kind of unless you really want to really overpay on, eBay. I sent a picture into the Discord earlier today from one of the new 6700 XTs already on eBay from a European seller. It was mid high $800 bid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was an MSI model, or no, Gigabyte model. It was a Gigabyte model. Triple fan, 897, one bid already on it.
The dual threat, the twin evil forces of scalpers and miners are going to make this at the same as every other launch in the last, I don't know, ever since Bitcoin started to explode again. And I
We
saw
thought Bitcoin 1.0 was bad. I know. This is so much worse than the first go around.
I was telling my wife, like, hey, Bitcoin fell. It's like $53,000. This was, I think, yesterday. And I hadn't looked at it at all. And then I looked at it tonight before the podcast. It was at 59 again. So these cards are not going to be available. Are you guys as excited as I am about another announcement for Intel 11th Gen before the
We did this last week.
The CPUs are available? I know. I saw that they were the embargo was up on the 16th for news. It's like, why? People already have reviews up. Gamers Nexus was teasing the fact that they bought one from that same German outlet, and they're working on refining their testing before they release their early review. AnonTech, of course, released a review early, and Dr. Ian
and a revised review.
Yep, gone back and retested with new microcode. So this is a product that's already at some of the most influential, biggest outlets, and yet we're still almost 2 weeks away from reviews.
Yeah, 30th.
So anyway,
Ryan picked a hell of a time to go to Intel because his plate is really, really full. My condolences. He's earning his money.
He likes the challenge. He recruited Justin Long to do commercials. It's all good.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But hey, let's get excited. Just want to show this visual. Intel 11th Gen Rocket Lake, now official. I thought they already were, but now we have pricing at least. So let's look at that. Let's talk about the pricing.
It's officialer.
Where is the chart? Okay, here we go.
There's another chart below this one too for the 11.6 when you want it.
So the high-end SKU, the i9 11900K, which is the 8-core 16-thread processor, 125 watts. That one is going to be $539. That's RCP pricing. That's like tray price, 1,000 units.
That's tray price. Yeah. So
it's going to be more. It'll be like $569.
10%, or is it 20% over?
I feel like they will be discounted at retail. They have to be, because you'll have an AMD
they have
product
right now.
Well, if the 5800 XT is widely available and that's 8-core 16 threads, how can they get away with selling this for more? I guess higher clocks.
But is it going to remain readily available?
Oh, what's the 5800X selling for right now? $449?
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah, it's $479 or something like that when you can actually get them.
Okay. Yep.
A little bit higher.
Let's look down here.
So there you go. There's your price target.
So that's your high-end SKU. Now let's ignore like the KF and the non-K and the F and the T. Let's go to the 11700K. That's a Core i7. Now, unlike the Core i9, this is an 8-core 16-thread part.
Wait,
right?
Did you say unlike the i9?
Exactly.
Oh, but
it may be a little tongue-in-cheek.
Hey, but the TDP though. I mean, because the TDP with the 10900K is 125 watts. This 11700K is only 125 watts. So.
Oh, that's a good observation.
In addition to having the same core count, it also has the same TDP, and the difference is 200 megahertz.
300. Is it 2? No, 2. You're right. Yeah.
But hey, but the trade price is $399. Why would anybody buy a 10900K if they could buy a 11900K if they could buy an 11700K for $140 less?
Well, okay. You know what?
Question.
What is a really good space heater cost these days?
Open flame or oil?
I'm thinking
mean,
more of the quartz. You know.
In Wyoming or here in Vancouver? Because they're pretty cheap right now.
Yeah.
125 watts is pretty low for a space heater. We know these can go upwards of about 280, maybe even up to 300 in certain circumstances.
Maybe.
Get
up
your
to
AVX
350.
512 application going and get a blower style CPU cooler. I'm sure those exist. And you could heat your room for like 300 watts, which is
Yeah.
way less than my space heater. I have one down here that I have used when it gets really cold in the winter. This thing on the high setting is like 1800 watts and will blow the breaker. So I could use just a little Intel system at my feet.
Yeah.
It's like a GPU.
The
Enough for each foot.
Intel foot warmer. An Intel foot warmer. Untapped market.
Yeah, the space heater jokes. It's lame. Sorry, guys. But hey, more SKUs. The excitement continues unabated. Actually, I mentioned this before. I am excited about these because they have better GPUs in them. Where's a picture of the die?
Graphics.
Yeah, man.
And it's
It's man.
way better, actually. It's like 2x plus. It's actually, they talk about them in glowing terms.
50 up to 50% better integrated graphics performance.
Yeah,
Now,
there you go.
Oh
we
wait,
looked at-
50%.
yeah, up to.
Yep,
Up to-
up to 50.
But yeah, here's some more SKUs
This is-
if you want to pause your video.
This one's
here.
clickable.
Is it? Oh, the other one wasn't.
Yes.
Why not?
No, I don't know.
Okay, 11600K. Now the 10600K was a great chip in my opinion. For, high clocks. Yeah, it has a couple fewer cores. But the disparity is a lot lower now because remember the 10900K had 10 cores and the 10600K had 6. Now this 11600K still has 6 cores. Still 125 watts. Ha ha ha. Close enough. I mean, if you enforce power limits, whatever. But hey, 262. This will probably end up being like 269, 279 if I'm not wrong. That's what I suspect. 299 at the most.
Hey, I have a question. Is the TDP column, could it be any less meaningful?
It's not. Enthusiasts laugh. That is a real limit if you're putting together an OEM system. Like Dell puts it
sure,
into one of their
okay.
small
Yep.
form factor desktops. They're
Granted,
absolutely
sure.
enforcing that 125 watt TDP. And boost duration, even on the Alienwares, is very conservative. They don't do like the full PL1, PL2 tau limits you'll see on like a high-end Asus or Gigabyte board or something on one of those boards. I've gone through and configured Dell systems before, and they are very conservative, even on the gaming end, where you'd have to pay. They have this upcharge, I don't know if they still do, for overclocking levels, which was literally something you go into the BIOS setup and choose level 1, level 2, or level 3. And all it did was change boost duration. Like the PL2 limit, I think, is the higher number. But that was it. So, I mean, these things will be configured. I don't think you'll see a lot of the K series parts, but you'll see maybe a KF, maybe a non-K. But that's the other thing, because it's kind of ridiculous. You go from 125 watts with the K to only 65 watts for the 11600.
Yeah,
Which
big drop.
the all-core turbo drops, according to this, only 300 megahertz. How is that extra 300 megahertz requiring double the wattage? But we'll see, because it's all based on duration, and because after a certain point, yeah, it'll fall down to 65 watts, but those initial boosts will last for so many seconds, 28 seconds, 56 seconds. So, but hey, competition. It's competition.
Yep.
In theory, we'll see what Micro Center prices are like. Although somebody was saying that Micro Center was already sold out of the 10900K pre-order, or the 11900K pre-order.
Shocking.
I don't think that's true. I think that they have prices up. When I went and looked, maybe a week ago, I looked in it, and the prices seemed high to me, but they had no stock, of course. The other interesting thing that's going on with here is, have you read anything about their Gear memory controller, Gear 1, Gear 2, kind of like
Yeah.
adopting
That was
the sort of AMD synchronicity between the memory controller and memory frequency? What do you guys know about that?
You sound like you know a little bit about it. I know that was one of
I
the
read
points
a
of
little bit.
contention around the AnonTech review. People were asking
And that
those
it's-
pointed questions on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas Gear 1 is out of the box supposedly reserved for the 11900 series, and Gear 2, the 2-to-1 ratio is reserved for everything not 11900 chip. So, and that's very similar to the ratio that AMD that has between their memory controller and memory. I think most of the board manufacturers are going to ignore it and run everything at Gear 1. I'm
I
just
can't
going to
wait.
predict that.
I can't wait. It sounds so exciting. Any more on that?
Hey,
or
it's the
can we
same
move
as
on?
them all ignoring Intel's recommendations on memory speeds and how, it was never anything more than 2666 for so long, and nobody had any trouble running 3200 and above, really.
Right. In typical enthusiast desktop scenarios, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Another big story of the last week or so has been the RTX 3060, which launched, was it a week or two ago now? I have already forgotten. And
6
here's a
months?
nice picture of one from a certain shelf behind me. But Jeremy wrote this up. Hash rate limiter busted. Now, actually,
Twice.
yeah, kind of. It was a fraud. One of them was a crop that didn't show that it was actually doing a different coin. Anyway,
I still don't care. The idea of a hash rate limiter is that it should be generally a hash rate limiter. Discouraging people from doing one specific type of coin is not going to stop them from mining other shit, as was shown.
absolutely,
Because,
yes.
Yes, your press release did specifically reference Ethereum, but that is it will only mine on Tuesdays. Oh, okay, well then the problem's solved. It's ridiculous. It's dumb, and it was expected that yes, there would be altcoins out there that, sure enough, it's going to be chugging around at 45 to 50 mega hashes a second, just like the hash limiter didn't exist. But then BDR's statement that specifically Ethereum mining can never be done, and that it was not specifically a driver that was blocking it, but it was baked into the hardware and the firmware, and there was just no way it's going to happen unless we release 470.05 beta driver, in which it's, completely and totally unlocked. And, as is the internet's thing, it's out there, it's never going away again. They did pull it very quickly, but it doesn't matter. It's spreading like wildfire. The 3060 is as we expected, although it took a little longer than I was first betting. I figured within a week it'd already be cracked wide open, but so just over a week, the 3060 is a mining card now.
But I wouldn't have expected NVIDIA to be the one to do it, because it, as you mentioned, 4070.05. Just Google those numbers, and you will find a link somewhere. Somebody will be hosting this. I'm sure there'll be some takedowns. Might have to move around a little bit, but
Oh, jeez, yes.
4070.05.
It worked well for Beyonce, didn't it?
Yeah.
Look at this. It goes from 28 megahashes per second once the limiter kicks in to 44 to 48. I'm guessing that depends on memory overclock, but
Talk about smashing your forehead with I could have had a V8. This is a nasty cell phone.
Yeah.
Brian Smith at AnonTech said, we're going way back to February here. Oh, they're just requoted. We've already
this
read
is
this
the
quote.
original limiter
It's not just a
post.
driver thing. Well, the
It is.
driver apparently can
We knew
control
it.
quite a bit.
Hey, even if it did do a handshake between the driver and the hardware and did some checksumming and things like that, like I was talking about on Discord a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago, hey, it just devolves to some bit of software on the PC side that says, hey, if this didn't come back with an affirmative check, then fail it, and it just takes one line of code in there that says, hey, just set that to true and move past that. And that's kind of what the developers, and this is development drivers, developers only driver that got that sort of subverts this. That's exactly what happened. They didn't want to bog down the developers with that particular whatever was going to cause them a problem, and they just commented it out in essence.
But the best news is that it doesn't matter because you couldn't have bought it before anyways.
Yeah, no one has one, so except the miners.
I feel like scalpers would buy it to resell even if they didn't know what it was. Like, it's what is this thing?
Yeah,
Is this a video game console? It doesn't matter. It's going on eBay. That's going to make me $200 a pop. So they don't care.
You're right about that.
That's why PS5s are still selling for $800 to $1,000 or more on eBay. It's a $500 game console. Your life will not end if you cannot play the latest $500 game console.
That's hard to convince everyone of that.
I will not pay more. I wanted one, and my wife was like, yeah, you can get one. So once I had the green light, I feel like I have to do it regardless before she changes her mind.
Yes.
And there's been no way to get one. I've not been fast enough. I've actually seen an add to cart once, and by the time I clicked it, it said this item could not be added to your cart because it is out of stock. I'm like, this is dumb.
Where was it?
I think it was Walmart.com. I've been completely unsuccessful in getting one anywhere. I was presented with the opportunity of buying a digital one in a bundle for like $600. Like, I don't even want the digital one. It's just...
I thought that there was supposed to be a big drop tomorrow.
Tomorrow on Amazon, yeah. If you follow the
Amazon,
Twitter
Walmart.
feeds. We'll see. Maybe I'll try one more time and just be depressed again. But
tomorrow's your day, man. Tomorrow's your day. 6700 XT day.
Because it's always a day away.
But the scalpers, they'll get them, and then they'll be on eBay for
they're going to be
$200.
distracted by the 6700 XT. Tomorrow's your console.
True. Hey, yes, because it officially goes on sale tomorrow, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Could be good. It's the 6700 XT running interference, so I can finally buy a PS5 with
you're gonna get
a library
PS5
of 5 games
underneath.
that I don't want to play.
It doesn't matter.
The only thing I've seen so far that I want is the Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, where I can put in my PS4 disc and I'll get the free upgrade to the PS5 version, but that isn't until June. So
You can wait though. Just
I can wait until
take that
June.
console, put it on the shelf if you can get one tomorrow.
But it's not, the availability is not going to get better. Josh, I was looking today somewhere. Honda has shut down pretty much their entire North American operation, Canada and the U.S.
Wow.
There's no chips.
Nope.
PS5
Yeah.
is the least of our worries.
SMC, UMC, Global Foundries, all their 28 nanometer
Samsung.
stuff is just a full bore doing auto.
Yeah. Yeah, Samsung. Yes, Jeremy. Samsung isn't going to do a Note this year. Exciting.
Nope.
Yeah, it's on
They
the
can't.
list.
They literally
it's on,
can't.
Oh, it's on the list. We'll talk about that. But
It's on the list. Yeah.
hey, before we get to our long-awaited and much-anticipated ad break, Jeremy, what is this? Are you going to scare us again with more
I love
Sure,
this
why
web.
not?
webcam password nonsense? Is this like security cameras, like baby monitors?
Oh, it's like cop
Yeah.
monitors and movie theaters.
And
yeah.
hospitals, and it's nothing major that this
courtrooms.
yeah, like freaking everything. So Verkada is a very big name in professional webcams. They are the ones that you see ubiquitously anytime you're in public and you're in a place that you're being monitored, like Cloudflare,
Airports.
Tesla, prisons, nowhere that you need to worry about. So these dipshits left their password as the same one as a famous luggage unlock code.
Where did they leave it, Jeremy?
It is. Oh, just in plain text on their site.
On
Just
Git, wasn't it?
somewhere
wasn't
no
it a
one
Git
would
repo?
find it. That too, yes. But it's also on their site.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, the login was admin. The password was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this was, just to make it even better, the admin password that they shipped with. So even as a user, if you went and changed your webcam stuff, it didn't matter because you didn't have access to the admin console to be able to change it there. Because all of these are run via consoles. So yeah, over 150,000 confirmed webcams across the planet. So this is just the height of stupidity. And, there's probably going to be some interesting fallout from that, considering where these cameras were stored. These are not just random mom and pop where, someone's privacy got horribly invaded and, their lives are kind of ruined on the internet. This is, monitoring people's medical records at a hospital. This is being able to plot a prison break by knowing where the hell all the guards are in real time. Spying on the new techno king of Tesla, if you really wanted to, I guess. Well, I suppose they've probably changed that by now. So yeah, just another reason to not trust the Internet of Things, and do your best to always change your passwords. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's the company that sold it to you is either hard-coded it in so that even if it's leaked, they can't fix it, or they just do something incredibly dumb like this.
Now, the group that hacked this, and I say it that way because it wasn't really hacked. It was just left out in the open, and they just stumbled across it. Tried to do the right thing and say, "Hey, look, you guys did this," and to prove it, they went and sampled a whole bunch of cameras and then showed it to them. And I don't know, they tried to be a little bit white hat about it, and I think they still got into trouble. It was a French outfit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And on that note, let's hear from this week's podcast sponsor.
Now that 2021 is looking up and bringing new beginnings, that means new opportunities to grow your business. If part of your strategy is adding new members to your team, LinkedIn Jobs can find the right person fast. To make things even better, your first job posting is now available for free. The network of the LinkedIn Jobs platform makes it easy for qualified candidates to find you. LinkedIn is an active community of professionals with more than 722 million members worldwide. Getting started is easier than ever with new features to help you find qualified candidates quickly. Post your job with targeted screening questions, and LinkedIn will quickly get your valuable position and role in front of more qualified candidates. Manage job postings and contact candidates from a single view on the familiar LinkedIn.com, as those functions are streamlined onto one simple screen. And now do all this from your mobile device, no matter where the day takes you. When your business is ready to make that next hire, find just the right person with LinkedIn Jobs. And now you can post a job for free. Just visit linkedin.com/PCPer. Again, that's linkedin.com/PCPer to post a job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Take a trip to Milan. The new AMD EPYC 7003 family. Look at those boxes. That's serve the home. I've recognized the bluish background on his table there. 64 cores. Okay. What can you tell me about
280
this?
watts. You okay with that? How do you feel about 280 watts?
I feel like if you can get 64 cores out of the same wattage of a 8-core Intel Enthusiast desktop processor, that's pretty good.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And, Phoronix did a little bit more testing. Serve the Home was more present at the briefing and sort of taking a look over how they're breaking it down. So one thing that they've done, which is relatively amusing, is that they've added 28 and 56 core CPUs, which is something that EPYC hasn't really done in the past, but might be, exactly matching those Xeons that people have been buying for quite a while. And
those numbers familiar, yeah.
Yeah, so they seem to be doing a little bit better at what they're supposed to be doing as well. And they've broken it up nicely. So if you want the biggest possible frequency you can get going with a big cache to core ratio, they've got some that they're the big hitters, like 280 watts TDP. The lower one, which is a mere 8 core, is 180 watt. Or for different applications, you want the highest possible thread count you can possibly get. Frequency doesn't necessarily affect the performance of your app as much as the sheer number of cores that you can throw at it. And so these ones are the 7763s and 13Ps and such. And they vary between 48 to 64 cores at 225 watts. And then there's the one that a lot of people are going to be looking at, which is their balance optimized ones, which only go up to a mere 32 cores. But they float at a maximum of 225 watts of a TDP, which really sits at a place where if you're looking at putting a whole bunch of them together and looking at how much this is going to cost you in power to run and to keep it under reasonable temperatures, this is a sweet spot for you. So they've got all of the fun that the Zen 3 does, and of course the extra more fun things that you get with the EPYC. So that you've got one DIMM per channel on with 4-channel memory interleaving, depending on how you've got things set up. Which, if you do the math, there could be a huge pool of RAM. They've got the security features that you'd like to see, sort of an iteration from what we saw with Zen 2 and the previous EPYC processes. It's a little bit better off. And if you recall, part of the reason that these are considered significantly more secure than the competition is that there's an actual ARM processor on the SoC, which handles a lot of this sort of stuff right at the very beginning of boot. So your trusted roots are baked right into the silicon, and they're run separate from the actual processor itself, which gives you a nice, break from a little bit of a gap security-wise. And if you look at the performance on the Phoronix charts, as Sebastian's showing you, the fancy Xeon Platinum 8280 is sitting, sort of in the middle of the pack. It's not really keeping up with a lot of these new processors. Now, as you drop down, of course they are, but, and I didn't really see MSRPs because, well, you're not going to be buying this. It's one day it might show up on Newegg. It's proven that we saw some of the chips that were not going to be sold singly appear, but they've got all sorts of, they've got a bunch of partners which will be taking orders, your usual Dells and, excuse me for a second, Dells and other suppliers of servers, so you'll be able to put your orders in. And, if your application, and you look through it, matches what they're pushing, you can be seeing a 19-20% jump in IPC compared to Zen, or the Zen 2 based previous EPYCs, which, if you've been holding off on an upgrade, is an attractive amount. I don't know if there's anything else that anyone was really impressed by, because as much fun as these are to look at and talk about, we're not.
Haven't they been out for a while? But this is only the official announcement. I can't remember if they're actually available.
I think you've been ordering them. I don't know if anything's shipped.
Yeah. But anyway, it's impressive. The extra security's nice. The performance, of course, is good. AVX perf is, it's improved. The floating point is tremendously improved overall. So, yeah, I mean, it just, they've got the competition running at every spot and at a lower overall price. And it's, in 1P and 2P solutions, it's kind of the go-to stuff. And 128 lanes, PCIe 4.0. I mean, enterprise stuff, I talked to Dave Graham about this. He was like, enterprise people are not as, excited about PCIe 4.0 because, they've got other, technologies, InfiniBand, I can't remember all the different ones, but it's still going to get used, and it's still a next generation approach. And 128 lanes is still a lot. It's a lot. And
if you can convince someone to actually buy the SSDs.
I mean, even if they only stay at PCIe 3.0, and downgrade that for thermals or whatever, it's still 128 lanes. It's massive. So they're happy with what AMD has given them.
Any other comments? I mean, it's server stuff. We don't really cover that too much, but
I like server stuff. I use a lot of servers. I appreciate the performance per dollar improvement. Can't wait to buy them. I mean, buy a position as a time slice on one of those servers.
Hey, speaking of things you can't buy, we alluded to this earlier, but shortages at the Samsung manufacturing, I guess. I don't know exactly what components they're short on, if it's the actual SoC or what.
If you name it, they ain't got it.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Well, no, I think Samsung's Austin fab still isn't back up, and that was primarily memory and NAND, I believe.
Yeah, so you've got that. You've got just the fact that the little building blocks, and one thing that we don't really talk about is that I expect these shortages extend right back down to the rare earth harvesting. Like they probably even the mines are running a little bit lower than they were before, and it's just gone completely up the chain. TSMC has their own extra issues with the water shortage, but they're dealing with that because they can source the water. If you're out of tantalum, you're kind of out of tantalum. And it's like Samsung was what they were specifically talking about, because they were mentioning that, there will be no new tab this year. They announced it. They wanted to do it. They can't. But they're also the guys that do, along with TSMC, all of Qualcomm's Snapdragon stuff. Also getting hit. So you're going to start to see, even just if they can source some of the other components for it and get the battery, they can't get the bloody processor. SK Hynix is also saying the same thing, that we're going to be not doing well at all for anything that we're producing. Volkswagen has cut like 100,000 car out of their production line. Toyota and Honda are pretty much like, as we were saying earlier, just throwing up their hands and saying, we'll do what we can, but we can keep our production line going 100%, and all you're going to have is a bunch of frames at the end that are waiting on a couple of random chips to make sure that your ignition works, or that the sensor in your carburetor is actually functional. So it's not going to get better. It's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better from the looks of it.
How delightful.
Yep.
Part of that shutdown in, I guess, their Texas plant was probably due to something they had to do orderly when they were told, hey, the power's going out, right? I mean, and then they have to do a full shutdown and restart. And
I don't think you want to turn power off at a fab.
No. That would be bad. So they kind of called them up and said, we need to reduce the load on the grid. You guys are going to have to bring it all down. And I think it was an orderly shutdown, and that takes some time to bring back online, no matter what.
Yeah. Either way, it's bad. So
phones could actually be that next thing. That's,
oh my gosh, you're right.
Impossible to find. And hyper expensive. Cars.
Good thing nobody mines coins with phones.
Yet. You just gave somebody the idea. No, they probably.
No, I don't think I did. Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
Come on! If they're taking over people's toasters and fridges.
Well, if you have enough of them, if you were able to infect like 1 million phones, then maybe it would be worth it.
Geez, that's unfeasible.
If you were to be somebody who ran
nanny
botnets,
cams and doorknobs and refrigerators and stuff.
Just think about this. What if somebody who professionally ran botnets, distributed computing, on people's systems without their knowledge, to do various nefarious things? What if that person started a mining company? Oh, wait, he did. And it's called NiceHash. And he's actually a convicted criminal who ran botnets.
Yeah. Come on. At this point, you could come up with the next Flappy Birds and have the disclaimer, by the way, your phone will now mine coin 100% of the time. People will still download it.
Yeah,
man.
My battery life isn't very good, but I just have it plugged in when I play.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right. Speaking of
nice
that's
backpack.
fine.
Yeah, that's where my battery charger is.
Hey, remember 3D XPoint? The future? Well, now, Intel spun it off to Micron. Now Micron is shutting it down. Anyone want to buy a Utah chip factory? They're going to be shifting resources into memory products that use Compute Express Link.
Wait, you mean like some sort of industry standard that everyone uses?
Well,
So the problem with them is at this place and that product is there was still not enough demand that they could utilize that plant. And so they're writing off $400 million worth of downtime on, of just idle time of that fab. And most companies can't afford, kind of the overheads and then not having $400 million worth of production going on in a year. So you can see why they're trying to get out.
Although apparently they're not going to completely bail on it. They are leaving saying that, if demand for the memory side of it, like the DDR replacement side of it, ever does catch on, we might keep going. But the SSDs, those 5 guys that were willing to buy one, no, they did, and now they don't want it anymore.
It was kind of sad when the consumer side went away, right? They're not making standalone Optane drives anymore, are they? Not for consumers. We have all
No,
these...
they're making overpriced MLC drives now.
Yeah, all these boards that are like Intel Optane ready, which I've been seeing since at least the 100 series, maybe the 200 series boards all had this logo on them. And
True, they did. Yeah.
I have a couple of sticks of, I think, 16 gigabyte that I got in systems that I parted out. Like, I don't even know what to do with these things. Like, and moving forward, you can't even buy them. So I guess it's like a collector's item now.
Sell them on eBay.
There you go. Get like $4 or $5 each for them.
That definitely sounds like something that should remain with you. I mean, you're kind of a collector person.
It's true.
Hey, before we move on, I interrupt this broadcast to announce another patron.
Uh-oh.
Just recently joined. Their name is Dan Wally Sempek, and we thank you very much for putting your name here. You can actually put that in post if you want.
Thanks, Dan Wally.
Much appreciated.
I've got to remember to edit that in now. All right. If I hear that when I'm editing tomorrow, then I'll be like, oh, put what here? What are you talking about? And then I'll add like some
Dan
notes.
Wally Sempek. During Josh's burger segment, he announced either a song or an instrument, and I'll be very disappointed if I don't hear it, by the way.
Who announced?
Josh did.
Okay. When I listen to the playback, I will try to identify. But I feel like there's a vision behind this stuff. Like I feel inspiration, and I'm like, no, it needs to be this mood. And I go into YouTube library music, and you can search by mood. I put in mood. So last week I put in romance, and I found this, kind of Latin sounding ballad. And it sounded like Josh had actually been reading this to the music. It flowed. If you haven't watched last week's podcast.
I haven't watched that.
Or listened to
it was on beat, man. You should watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like an ode to the Mexican taco burger. And it's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
The intro was on point. The burger segment was spot on.
I did a slow zoom on the burger, so the entire time it's just getting closer and closer to the camera as the music swells, and then the vocals come in on the background, the people oohing and ahhing at just the right moments. Yeah. I lucked into that hardcore. Where were we?
That's good.
Josh is going to take a break and watch that now.
Yeah, AGESA. It never stops.
1.2, 0.0, 0.1, and 0.2.
And 7/8.
V2 of AGESA. So AGESA V2, whatever. Yeah. But hey, AMD, they have resolved their USB issues, which I'm excited about, because I want to get that godlike MSI X570 board out again that I was using for streaming for a while. Plug it back in, hook up my Camlink 4K, and see if the thing doesn't freeze anymore. That'll be exciting. But AMD started collecting data from users. I'm looking at videocards.com here. And 500 series motherboards reportedly had issues with USB connectivity, surprisingly. The company has announced AGESA 1.202, just like Josh said. But the official AMD Reddit account, I love how AMD does things like this. Like, it'll be a Reddit post from somebody. It'll be, a tweet.
Yep. Way outside what would seem like official channels. They're just like, oh, yeah, we're going to announce this over on a Reddit.
Well, they're not publicly traded, so they can get away with stuff like this. So they're still a small private company. So
yeah, sure. Yep.
They own their own fabs,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're totally on their own. The nice thing about this is that, one, it took them like almost a year, which is nice. Okay, that wasn't the nice part. The nice part is they finally believed people, and they roped willing participants in off of Reddit to say, okay, demonstrate this. Here's how we want you to document it. Please instrument it this way. Send us these dumps. And then they actually did something about it. Unlike Rockstar Games until recently, which occurs.
We'll get to that in a moment, but I was just going to say, I think what happened was 2020 happened. People were at home needing to plug USB things like webcams and USB microphones. And when you start doing, higher bandwidth USB stuff, it would fall down a lot.
And shit falls down.
Fall down, go boom.
Yeah.
I've got to mute 2 words. Trying to keep the podcast clean so I get that nice clean rating.
Sorry.
All right.
Yeah. Put a break on that.
I'll just have to mute them. Yes, you can say that. Developers to update GTA Online to address poor load times after community fix. Wait, so the community fixed it, but now they're going to fix it?
No, man, there was one dude.
Oh, I
who
see.
Just
they had to pay out
enough.
A bounty. Gotcha.
Yeah,
I got 10 grand out of it.
This kind of thing is out there for the talented amongst the audience, if there are any people so inclined. Go fix something, especially if it's from Rockstar, and you could potentially score a 10 grand you fixed it payout if it's cool. This was an issue with GTA 5 that was specifically on them loading a very, very large multi-megabyte JSON file and reparsing it over and over again, very, very inefficiently. And this guy finally stopped wanting to wait for, 5, 6, 7 minutes at a time to join GTA 5 online, and disassembled the DLLs and figured out what the hell was going on. That's 3, by the way. And went in and wrote a patch wrote a new DLL, compiled it, and substituted it so that his code would be called instead to more efficiently parse this multi-megabyte JSON file and reduce load times by 70%. Rockstar finally gave him his due and is going to adopt his solution and paid out a $10,000 bug fix bonus. So good on him. Toast, TO0ST. Whatever.
I'm gonna go with toast. I feel like it has to be toast.
Toast is good. Yeah.
But if you're Minnesota, it's toast.
Toast. Well, good on him
toast?
anyway. Good for that guy. Anyway.
Yeah. Good for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, another community
Jeremy
fix.
has nothing to
Backing up with the backing up the AGESA community Reddit fix with the Rockstar community Reddit fix. See, things going on there.
Okay, we've waited long enough.
We have. Let's go.
The top story tonight. We buried the lead. Justin Long.
did.
Do you remember the Mac versus PC commercials? You had John Hodgman, Justin Long.
I don't.
Hodgman was the lovable PC, and Justin Long was this douche who, I don't know what he did, jumped out of boxes and said, like, look, I'm ready to use. Everything I need is already installed.
You misspelled cool guy when you said douche.
Yeah, but I think anybody who's concerned that he's jumped ship and taken Intel's sweet money to go do Get Real Go PC ads, where he says, hey, I'm just a real guy. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not an actor who doesn't ever actually use a computer. I'm just a guy who loves PCs because they can do so much more than a Mac. I remember reading a article or an interview clip with him years ago where he's like, yeah, I don't even use a computer. Like, there was no actual brand loyalty to Mac when he did those commercials either. But hey, you can watch these ads on youtube.com. Justin Gets Real. And look at that. Oh, but the Mac can only support one monitor. Was this even... Oh, okay. Anyway. Hey, M1 Macs, apparently they're limited. And you need Intel.
I liked him better when he was paired with Bruce Willis in that movie. With everything.
That Die Hard 8?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it may have been 5. Anyway.
It wasn't 8. It may have been 5. Yeah. I liked him better in that commercial, actually.
Live Free or Die Hard. Wasn't that the one?
I think that's the one, yeah.
These days
Maybe. I'm sure that wasn't the one in the Soviet Union, but you're on the right track.
I think that was Die Hardest.
I can't
Die
remember.
Harder.
There are too many.
But look, he had a better trajectory than you're getting a Dell guy, because that guy just
True.
he
Hands
fell off
down.
the
He
face
just-
of the earth.
He
Justin-
smoked in the wrong place at the wrong time.
He just
And
lived
got
in the wrong
busted.
time.
Dell dropped
Today,
him.
that would probably be legal in whatever state he was in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
New York.
What, Canada? We're probably filming it up here because it's cheaper.
That's state, but sure.
I love this. The next one down. Justin gets real touchscreens. Hold on, I have to wait for my streaming PC interface to come back to me. There we go. It was frozen. Okay. Oh, cool. This is quoting Justin Long in the ad. Oh, cool. This whole thing is a touchscreen, end quote, as he places his hand on his iPad Pro and then realizes, oh, no, I'm doing an Intel commercial, and sets that aside and then futzes around with the weird half screen above the keyboard on an Asus ZenBook. So that's exciting.
Funny.
So am I to understand that iPads are not touchscreen? I'm not sure I follow.
I
I
made
think
up
it's-
part of that.
Yeah.
Justin's like, hey, this is a touchscreen. That's your iPhone, Justin. Oh, well, this is a touchscreen. That's your iPad. That's
What's
what
a
you've been
computer?
reading. You were studying your script on this iPad before we went to shoot, and now you have to use a PC. What's a PC? Don't worry, Justin. Just read the lines.
You're right about that. The entire cast was working off of iPads before they all set them down and shot the PC commercial.
Exactly. And then it was all edited on Mac Pros.
Probably.
Okay. Do we have anything else on the list? Or was that it? Is it time
Yeah,
for
man.
picks of the
Got
week?
some-
Oh, you got
we
some
know we got
reviews.
some reviews.
That's right. More reviews.
Yeah.
All right. Let me relax and let... I know, Josh. It's going to be
I
okay.
know he's killing them. No, it's
Ja-
fine. Hey,
Brett.
this isn't going to take long.
Brett, don't kill us.
Okay.
Take it away.
I'm not killing you, man. I'm not killing you, man. This is a nice laptop from Lenovo. It's the was given to us for review late last year. It's, like I said, a little bit off the curve from the latest performance specs, but it's still very reasonable with a 6-core, 12-thread CPU. The case was carbon fiber and magnesium. Really nice case. Really nice to the touch. Good chassis. Well built. Very nice keyboard. Pleasant to use. Internals are very typical for the Lenovo ThinkBook series, with expansion and room for RAID SSDs, NVMe's inside, 64 gig capacity, and reasonable amount of cooling. Like I said, great to use. The screen, though, was really awesome. 4K OLED touchscreen with a stylus. The reviewers that myself and a couple other guys named Kyle actually helped me out with this, because I just had it for a long period of time, so I thought I'd get some multiple people to take a look at it with different use cases. We all really enjoyed it, and the screen was really the highlight. 4K, like I said, touchscreen, really, really beautiful. Really, almost no downsides. The battery life is really good. Like I said, the keyboard was great. Everything worked really well. You can even game a little bit on it at not high settings or anything like that. It only has a T2000 NVIDIA with 4 gig in it, but Lenovo positions it as a mobile workstation. No issues at all with that. The camera, of course, somewhat weak, as most 720p cameras are.
Two M.2s.
Two M.2s, that's right. And an
Nice.
additional M.2 there on the far right-hand side, which I think is dedicated towards a
Wi-Fi
network
6 or
access
something?
card. Yes, it's exactly it. And I specified that in there. One of the Intel, I can't remember the number right now. I went and looked it up to see which one was optional for that one. But yeah, a Wi-Fi 6 card with what they call vPro, which is really more towards corporate management. You're probably familiar with vPro, Jeremy. Anyway, in the light of
Didn't know
today's laptops with higher CPU capacity, with Ryzen CPUs, you want to be careful about which one you're buying. Look at give this one a look if you're into keeping your laptop for a long period of time, though, and you want something that's really robust and pleasant to use. I have no reservations about recommending this if it fits in your budget. It's going to be a great wearing laptop with with reasonable performance over a long period of time. See, I told you it wouldn't take that long. Please go and read
Not too
it though.
long.
It's a good read.
What was the keyboard like? Like, what's the key travel like? Because I know some of these, the key...
It's a Lenovo, for crying out loud.
Right, but there's Lenovo and there's Lenovo. So is this Lenovo with the shallow key travel and the smooth key tops, or these have slightly concave key tops and a little bit more key travel?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit more key travel, a little bit more concave. Not very loud, very quiet. Like I said, it had a very good feel to it, and it was not fatiguing at all. And like I said, no deck flex, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
It just has a lot of quality to it when, you're smacking stuff in the middle and the whole deck is not moving on you and the keys kind of stay where they are.
And obviously, it looks like you did a little gaming on this. So you
Absolutely.
Can game on a
Why
Quadro,
not? Because
huh?
yeah, you don't always have to go to your next meeting. Why not? 1080p low and 1080p medium was really good. 4K low was not terrible.
Oh,
Okay, it would. Yeah, was not terrible. It actually, if you scroll down and look at that matrix just below where you're looking at right now, you'll see a few. You can see 1080p Ultra would hit 60 in Modern Warfare and reasonable in Warzone, but please don't play Metro. Unless you're gonna turn down the graphics fidelity to low.
And this may seem
Obviously
ridiculous,
reasonable.
but what if this is the only thing you can get your hands on in the current climate?
You might not be wrong.
I want a game, but all I can find is this professional workstation laptop. But hey, I can do 1080 medium.
Hey, as this is configured, you're going to be pushing high $2,000 on this, which may be a deal. I don't know.
Pocket change.
Yeah, really. But the really, honestly, the screen is really wonderful. If you need detail, if you're doing CAD, if you're doing graphics design, it's a really excellent 4K screen. At that physical size, the 4K pixels are damn small. It was not as quite as bright as I would like, so you got to kind of keep your ambient a little bit lower. It's because the touchscreen cuts down on some of the light being emitted from it to about 400 nits. Non-touch is 500, 600.
Okay, I would go without touch then. And for this
You can.
style of use, I would not even need a touchscreen. Does
Touch
this
was
thing
going to your
fold
iPad.
up, or does it just fold flat? Does it have like a
It would
360
it would
hinge?
fold totally open
Okay.
to fold flat. It would not reverse.
Okay, so no 360 hinge on this one.
Correct.
Okay.
Good laptop though. Easy to recommend.
$2,000 for something with OLED at 15 inches would have seemed nuts a few years ago. Like, there's no way the panel would have even been available for that. But there was this push, who was it, a couple of years ago, to make these 15-inch OLED panels for things like
15.6.
laptops. And so they've come down a lot.
And this thing is super light, carbon fiber and magnesium. It is not a heft. It is easy to tote around.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while. I think the
Rub aluminum on
ThinkPad
it.
Carbon X1 was the first one with their really lightweight magnesium. It was something, what was that one Ryan had at CES in like 2015? It was like a pound. He said it was like holding a toy prop of a laptop. It was a joint venture between Lenovo and Fujitsu or somebody. I don't know.
But this thing did not have a lot of heft to it, and it will not twist, or you can't put much flex on it at all. Not really.
That's good.
No.
All
What
right.
do you do when the screen starts to go bad then?
Yeah, exactly. That's a feature.
It's not. It's a Lenovo, man.
It's a feature.
It's not going bad.
Speaking of
It does. It's
Yeah,
$5,000 for the replacement.
speaking of reviews that we'll breeze through.
I liked your lemmings.
Yeah, don't you like that? That's for scale. I was like, how is anybody going to see how small this box is? Unless
Nobody
I
even knows
put
what that is.
Something.
And now there you got a save
identifiable.
icon beside it.
It's was there?
Yeah.
It's the box was barely
that's a-
taller than a floppy disk. This is tiny.
Well, that's a 3.5-inch floppy disk for those of you who don't even know what that is.
Yeah. Well, come on.
Where that
Our viewers
icon
know
comes
what that
from
is.
on save.
So this is legitimately the exact size. If you just took the letter keys and like tab, shift, enter from your keyboard and put a little frame around it. There's nothing else. It's 60% keyboards. If you're not familiar, they don't have any function keys. Of course, there's no space. They don't have arrow keys. They are just They're the keys for typing, and you have like the number keys up above. It's like a typewriter. If you've ever used an old typewriter, that's about all you get here. And
I can see you really enjoying this minimalist approach.
I like the style of this a lot, and I was like, okay, it's another one. The MSRP on this is 109. And if you've looked at things like the Ducky keyboards, they start at about 100, and then people buy these kits and they go nuts, and you can spend $200, $300, $400, as we've seen from some of Chris Koch's reviews, where it's a hobby for people. But if you just want a pre-made 60% keyboard, this is a new option. And I was quite impressed by the feel of it. I was not anticipating liking this at all. I don't particularly care for the 60% form factor because I actually use arrow keys and function keys a lot.
Right.
But it's not the end of the world to hold down the function key. You can map these things any way you want. By default, it's U and J for up and down, and then H and K are left and right arrows. And you've got other things that secondary functions. You can program your own, like I said. And the nice thing about this one is it is quite a bit like some of those other keyboards, like the Ducky one that I checked out, where it has its own memory and you can do things on the keyboard. You don't have to rely on IQ software, but you can program everything with IQ and then save it to the internal memory instead of relying on the software. You have that option when you're actually configuring this in IQ. So then I can unplug this, plug into any other device, and it retains my lighting settings, my shortcuts, anything that I've programmed into it. So that was nice. And the other thing about this, it has a number of firsts, as Corsair had provided this list here, including an 8,000 hertz hyper polling rate. So when I first plugged it in, it was at 4,000 max. There was a firmware update available. I downloaded that, and then I could enable 8,000 hertz. And there's a little warning, where can I find this, about enabling it. Like, you need a high-performance system. Axon hyperpolling uses additional system processing resources. A higher-end system is required to operate at up to 8,000 hertz. So I just had to OK past that. Yes, and then my trivial usage was now being scanned at 8,000 hertz. And it does 4,000 hertz key polling, and then the USB is 8,000. So it's like, you're never going to miss anything on this.
Yeah, wow.
The switches are Cherry MX. This is not using one of like the optical switches, nothing proprietary. They only use Cherry on these. So Cherry MX Red, Cherry MX Silent, and Cherry MX Speed RGB switches. And the MX Speeds, I typically don't like speed switches. They only have a 1.2 millimeter actuation distance. These are like a 45 gram key switch, but that's a very shallow actuation. So if you have a very light touch, you can be very quick with these keyboards. And all of the key switches really are pretty shallow that are offered here. They range from 1.2 to 2 millimeters. So you don't have to use a heavy touch. I bottom out keys when I type. So being the heavy-handed person that I am, and there was a particular kind of springiness to this. It felt old school, like clattering away on this thing. It felt like I was using an old keyboard. Not like buckling spring or anything, but it was nice. They're linear switches. There's a satisfying kind of solid, clunky feel to the spacebar. I liked the feel of this a lot. And for just typing text and playing games, it's great. And it's so small, it'll fit almost anywhere. And of course, I finished up with the review, and I'm showing this thing to my wife. I'm like, look how tiny this keyboard is. It's ridiculous. And my son's like, oh, for me, it's my keyboard. Like, it can be, I guess. So it's currently in his room. And he's played like a Dr. Seuss game on it. I think Green Eggs and Ham has been played on this keyboard now. And
Dad, it's telling me to push page up.
Oh no, that's a function. You got a function modifier with the thing. Okay, but
hold down these two.
Yeah. I liked it. I think it's actually pretty competitively priced, even at $109. If you've looked into the boutique 60% keyboard market, and it feels great. So if you can live without all those other keys, or if you've been looking for one of those really small keyboards that you're literally just going to use to like game on and nothing else, then
or just want to buy a numpad on the
Yeah,
you can have
You
that.
can
Your
customize
USB.
everything. I want my own function
close-
keypad.
How close to the bottom of the key travel before it triggers? Like partway through, or is it really close to the bottom of the travel before it
No, it's
actually
very
registers?
close to the top of the travel.
Oh, very. Oh,
Like we're
And
talking
you still bottom 'em
1.2
out.
millimeters, 1.2 millimeters, and it's actuated, and then I keep going until it bottoms out. But that's how I was actually able to slow these down. I don't like speed switches. I didn't even ask. These were just the ones that came, but I would have
that
probably
Bushmills?
chosen reds.
No, I like myself.
totally.
Oh,
It's a totally different
Tullamore Dew.
conversation.
Yeah, no, you know what? Do not get the Tullamore Dew Caribbean cask.
I
It
made
tastes
that
like-
mistake. Oh,
It
rotted
tastes
fruit.
like rotten pineapple.
Yeah. It's
anyway.
amazingly well done. It's exactly like rotten fruit. But
It
I don't think
is.
that's what they were going for.
No, but anyway, sorry to interrupt. I had too much keyboards and I saw whiskey.
it's okay. All right.
right.
It's time for picks of the week.
Hey, it's not
And
like
I
a
am
laptop that it's got
quite-
everything in it that everybody reviews. Everything.
What is happening here? Did somebody actually pick
I don't know.
this?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, Josh, what is this?
So, this last blizzard, a lot of people that I know actually had power go out, and they're sitting in their houses at like 41 degrees in coats trying to stay warm because they had all like electrical power and they didn't have a fireplace. And if the power goes out in the middle of a storm, you get your family into a room, you light 3 of those candles, and you just hang out. You're not going to get carbon monoxide poisoning from running a generator inside your house. They
You're not
last for
supposed to
like
bring
8
your
hours
barbecue
apiece.
inside and cook.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to burn some coal in here, and no, it's we had a blizzard this past weekend where it was like 26 inches over in Cheyenne. We had like 10 or 12. I mean, not nearly as much, but it's still, it closed the town down enough. And there was enough wind that a lot of people were actually losing power. So if you live in a colder climate, spend $30 and get some candles. You can use them for other things as well. But when things get
They're
grim,
waxless.
what?
They're waxless.
They're clean
Dripless,
burning
sorry.
wax. Dripless. Come on. I was just like,
Oh, not waxless, dripless. What are these made of? Does it matter?
Ether. I don't know. No,
Yeah.
it's
They're made out of petroleum.
dripless. So it's a high quality wax that burns, and you're going to be good and not die of cold and carbon monoxide.
Welcome to This Old PC Show, where we talk about
Yeah.
candle power.
Jeremy, do you have a tech pick this week? I guess it doesn't matter what
Oh,
it is.
yeah. It
Okay, what
is.
It does not matter.
What is this? This looks. I don't understand this.
Well, I mean, some people do make poor lifestyle choices and do things like become email admins. And once you've set down that harsh path, there is really no coming back because regular society wants nothing to do with you anymore. But if you have started out on this journey and you're just sort of learning your feet and trying to figure stuff out, and you might have downloaded the recent patches from the latest Microsoft gift to every mail admin on the planet, but you haven't done any actual testing to see how borked you got, or if some of those patches, surprise, didn't apply the way they should have. Microsoft recently updated their on-premises migration tool, and you can snag it off of GitHub. It's ridiculously easy to run, and not only will it check to make sure that everything is patched, actually do the patching for you, it will also run a couple of scanners against you to see if you remain vulnerable or if there's any evidence that you were already hacked. So if you haven't really played with it, or you've only gotten to the stage where you've mitigated the problems but you haven't actually tested to see how horrible everything is, this is worth doing. It's also the way that they designed it, dead simple to run. So do yourself a favor. Yeah, you might want to give that a shot.
Brett, do you have a pick this week?
I do, and it's an actual something totally different for me. It's a networking appliance. I hardly ever talk about networking things. It's actually hey, do you want to turn a previously unwired upstairs room into something that's hardwired, and all you've got into that room is a 90s run cable? Well, I didn't even know this thing even existed. This is called a Go Coax. And it's the I think it's the MOCA variant, which allows up to 2.5 gigabits over dark or shared cable to get Ethernet into a far-flung room of the house that you just don't want to drill through that many walls and floors to get to. Amazing technology today. Now, don't forget to get two. One will not do it. You got to encode it on one end and decode it on the other. And this actually works. I tested it. Good to go. My cable happened to be dark. I'm not running anything else over it. But there's ways to run this over the cable system if you've already got television or even your regular internet on it. There's ways to kind of sidestep it and use these to encode and make sure that you don't step on that with filters.
What was your throughput like? Is this doing like full gigabit? Is it only 10100?
I tested it with gigabit Ethernet right now, and I tested it with and without, and I saw about a 20 megabytes drop. So I went from like 990 to 970.
Were you using the thicker data coax or the thinner cable stuff?
It was fairly thick. It was probably I'm trying to remember this, the 56.
Oh, I don't actually remember anymore.
RG6 was the digital grade, like satellite.
Yeah.
Oh, this was
RG59
this was
the older stuff, right?
Okay, yeah, it was. I believe it was RG59. It was fairly thick stuff.
Okay.
That's thin.
Yeah.
No, it was
The
thick.
lower number is what you want.
Well, it's coax,
this was
it's thick, but
RG6.
Well, this was a house that was built in the 90s, so whatever they were running around that time was.
I feel like there was this weird transition period. Remember the digital transition of like 2005?
Yeah.
That's when people were being informed, hey, you need RG6. We can't use that RG59 stuff that the cable company left there.
But I've got my megahertz, 1,000 megahertz splitter upscaler.
You know what I miss?
It goes from 1 into 4. That's going to work perfectly, right?
I miss 900 megahertz phones. Those
true. Those were
phones. So
great
good.
through the walls. Distance
way out
was
in the yard,
fabulous.
down the street.
I
Didn't care.
The wavelength was so long, it would go through brick. Anyway, this MOAC stuff actually works, and it isn't horrendously expensive. So I didn't even know this option existed. If you've got a room that's wired with coax, try this out.
My pick this week, if you've been like on the fence about like, should I upgrade my system? I mean, more and more games are coming out that can take advantage of more than just like PC speaker sounds. And a lot of people go with the ad-lib card. I'm really impressed with this. This is the Sound Blaster. And this thing will do, it's fully ad-lib compatible. It's got the same chip on it, but it also does digital voice. It does music. That was laying around. I'm like, hey, I'll use that for my pick this week. So, sorry. I apologize.
Solid.
All right. Anything else, gentlemen, before we sign off for the week? No.
I don't know. Anybody have any weird questions here?
All right. Let's officially sign off before we start the after show. Tune in again next week. We'll have more stuff. Maybe even another graphics card review. You never know. But until then, good night.